first community forum. So you are actually the first forum that we are leading this week. We had a few notes from the city manager. I'll welcome him to have some welcoming remarks, and then we'll go through the rest of our planned presentation. City manager, are you there?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this opening session of this inaugural city strategic planning session for the great city of Homestead. The city is making history today with the launch of its first ever strategic plan, a comprehensive roadmap that will guide the city's priorities and decisions for the next few years. I am Zari Aihekwaba, City Manager for the City of Homestead, and welcome to this session. This initiative marks a pivotal moment in Homestead's growth, ensuring a future that reflects the needs, aspirations, and expectations of all residents and businesses, and more especially the elected officials and we, the administration, working in concert with everyone as community leaders and stakeholders. Why is community input essential? Why are we reaching out to you? It's because we believe that residences and businesses owners are the very pivot that shapes the future of every city by providing input and sharing their thoughts on city priorities and by suggesting improvements. We believe that this is a historic moment for us here in the administration, even amongst the elected officials, as we develop this plan that ensures that we're not just keeping up with growth, but we are also leading the way in South Florida. We need our community's voice to make sure that the plan reflects what matters most to everyone. In the long run, this isn't just a document for us to utilize as a template, but it's also a blueprint for action. It will influence everything from daily operations to major projects, making our governmental functions more efficient, aligned with best practices, and responsive to citizens and residents' needs. The planning process will take place over the next several weeks, with opportunities for all stakeholders to provide continuous feedback as we finalize the final document. Once finalized, the plan will establish a clear vision, the mission and goals for Homestead's future. It will align city resources and initiatives to maximize impact. It will align city resources, services, and infrastructure based on the best practices and the best expectations of our community. It will provide a resilient homestead of the future, by tracking progress through measurable outcomes and key performance indicators. We welcome you to this session, and we ask for a robust interaction. We ask for your participation and input. We ask for your understanding and patience. And more importantly, please feel free to share what you believe is the direction that you expect the city of Homestead to take as we build a more strong, resilient city of Homestead. Thank you for joining us. And with that, I'm handing over to our facilitators to guide us in this process. And again, keep in mind that not just this virtual session, we will be having in-person meetings also at City Hall at 100 Civic Court here in Homestead tonight at 6 p.m., as well as tomorrow, Thursday, April the 10th at 6 p.m. as well. Thank you and welcome to this session.
Thank you so much, City Manager. And I really love the emphasis on community engagement, right? Really looking to understand what your needs are and what your priorities are. So by way of introductions, my name is Charlene Petiom. I am a manager with the firm Barry Dunn. We've been engaged to assist the city in this process, and my role is project manager and lead facilitator. And what that means, it's really me being involved in the stakeholder interviews, as well as facilitating our plan development sessions that we'll have in May to really help the city bring all the pieces together into a strategic plan. I've been involved in over a dozen strategic planning projects closer to you all, work with the city of Cooper City, and also work with the city of Groveland in the Orlando area. My educational background is in public administration, so again, really happy to be here and helping you all facilitate a very exciting strategic planning process. With that, I will kick it over to my colleague Bailey and have him introduce himself as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Charlene. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bailey Dickinson, and I'm a staff consultant with Barry Dunn. I'm proud to help communities develop strategic plans that reflect their unique goals and visions. For this project, I'll be serving as the research analyst and collecting any relevant data for the study and the final plan. But prior to joining Barry Dunn, I worked in different roles for the public sector, including with the Carl Vinson Institute of Government at the University of Georgia, assisting local governments across the state. I've also served as the assistant to the city manager for the city of Covington, and I later worked in cooperative extension with the University of Georgia. Since joining Barry Dunn, I've had the pleasure to work with several different cities, and I'm truly excited to be here in Homestead to help support your planning process. Thank you, Charlene.
Thanks, Bailey. So as far as our agenda, just so you can see what we have in store for you. So we'll do a high-level forum overview and just kind of give you all an idea of what's in plan, right? So we'll do an environmental scan presentation. I'll describe what that is. And then once we do that environmental scan presentation, we'll then have you all break out into some small groups so that you can meet with your neighbors and kind of share additional ideas in terms of your vision, right? For where you want to see the city go in the next 5 years. Once we have the small group discussions, that'll take about 20 minutes. We'll come back into this large group setting so you all can share your ideas and we can all have some alignment too in terms of what ideas came from the small group discussions. Then we'll wrap up and have some additional remarks from the city. They'll share with you all some exciting events that are coming up with the city of Homestead. So we really hope that you stay throughout the meeting. I know some folks have other engagements, but we really appreciate your time this afternoon. So just some guidelines for effective participation. I know everyone here will play nice, but we always like to put this up here just so that we're making sure that we're all being respectful of everyone's viewpoints, right? So we all come from different backgrounds, just being respectful of people's viewpoints and listening politely and intently. Staying focused at the discussion at hand. Unfortunately, we don't have all day, but we definitely want to make sure that we're really keeping on task with the prompts that we'll be providing you all so that we're collecting as much information to be provided to the city for consideration. And then be curious, right? Ask questions as as they come up. You can feel free to use the chat feature. When we're speaking from the breakout discussion, speaking in we statements are just advised as you all are reporting out from a group setting. All right, I'm not sure if WebEx has the thumbs up feature, but I hope we can all agree to play nice during these forums. So first, what is a strategic plan? We just want to give you all some high level. Thank you, Lazar. Good, thanks for the thumbs up. Just wanted to give you all some high level overview of what strategic planning is before we start thinking about where we want the city to even go, right? So just baseline, the strategic plan will help the city of Homestead prioritize what it wants to focus on, right? So in local government, there's only so much that we can do with the confines of our resources. We really want to be intentional about the priorities that we have as a community. Most importantly, it's a living document, right? So I'm sure you all are not just sitting here for this plan to sit on the shelf. We want to make sure that we're developing a plan that's going to ultimately be a living document that's being updated and it's guiding decision making throughout the city. And of course, a tool for government transparency and accountability, right? So is the city doing what it said it would do in the strategic plan? So that's really looking to define the what in the strategic plan. And then the how is going to be further described in the implementation plan once we get to that stage of actually having the strategic plan developed. So why do we do strategic plans? So as I mentioned, it's helping plan for the future, right? So the city is in a very exciting moment where there's a lot of growth happening. How do we capitalize on the growth, but also make sure that we're planning ahead for the future and addressing some community needs and challenges as well? It's setting those clear priorities that ultimately the city will use within their budget process to make sure that resources are being allocated effectively. And lastly, it's maintaining focus at what's most important to you all as the community. So this graphic, we like to use this graphic just because it helps folks kind of visualize how everything fits in together. So the vision statement will ultimately be developing in May based on the feedback that's collected throughout the community engagement phase. That sits at the top. That's your North Star that's guiding all the activities that the city is doing. Then your mission statement is something that describes your reason for being, right? So that kind of sits under the vision statement. And then typically cities and counties will typically come up with about 5 to 6 strategic priorities. Those are the main theme areas that, the city identifies as areas to focus on. It could be things like public safety, or it could be things like infrastructure. And then under those priorities, you'll have a goal statement that looks to describe what we're looking to accomplish within that strategic priorities. And then the objectives are more specific action items that we'll be doing to move closer to achieving the strategic priorities and further the vision statement. And then the core values, really, that's the foundation, right? So this is looking to describe how should the city staff behave and engage with the public and the general community. So in terms of how we collect our information, we look to find information from various sources, right? So that we're validating and looking at different perspectives. So we've conducted community forums by way of interviews. We're now in the stage where we're doing forums such as these and then the one tonight, the one tomorrow. And really the goal is to collect additional information from you all. We also have a community engagement site called Social Pinpoint. We've been able to have a survey on there where people can share their thoughts and ideas, as well as a virtual idea wall, so you can see what folks are kind of thinking about as well. And then some demographic data. This is really helping you all to start thinking about some of the trends, right, that the city is experiencing and how that could ultimately shape into the strategic planning process. So all of these are really some of the critical pieces to the puzzle to make sure that we're collecting feedback from various sources. So before we move forward, I wanted to just take a pause and see what folks had to say in terms of which words best describe the city. So feel free to use the chat feature. Let me know what the first word comes to mind when I say the city of Homestead. Laid back, diversity, home. I love that. Growth, okay. Culture. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of culture and diversity, and we'll see that as well in the demographic data that we share. Agriculture, yep. Opportunities, that's exciting. Future, okay. Awesome, thank you. And the reason why we asked this question as well, as we look to define the mission statement for the city, we want to make sure that we're identifying some keywords that make the city unique, right? So for most cities, mission statements look very similar, but we like to spice them up a little bit by having some aspects of what makes you all unique as a city. So thanks for engaging in that. I'm going to turn it over to Bailey now, who he'll walk us through the community profile, and then we'll go from there. Bailey?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charlene. So as she was saying, next we'll be walking through the community profile for the city. So this background kind of provides a snapshot of key data and certain trends that are helping shape the area of Homestead. This information will include an overview of the city's demographics, as you can see here, educational attainment, housing availability and affordability, internet access, and other important social and economic indicators. The goal is to ground our strategic planning discussion in a clear understanding of where the community is today and also where it's going to. So as we can see here, the population has significantly changed over the last decade in Homestead, going from just over 60,000 in 2010 to 80,000 plus now. An increasing population brings a lot of opportunities, right? We heard those words, the future, growth, new opportunities, all those sorts of things. And all of those are absolutely true. But it's also very important to understand that your population impacts your infrastructure, the services that you need to provide, and your overall long-term growth. It can bring up so many economic opportunities, bring jobs, bring higher paying wages to your community. But it can also create pressure on your housing stock, on transportation availability, schools, and public safety. So being aware of these trends, being aware that your population is growing, is incredibly important as we plan for where this community is going to go in the future. In regard to the other items, one of the most important things to consider is income, right? As it affects whether an individual has the means to continue to live and thrive within your city. The city of Homestead is just under the county at $61,975, being the median household income. For anyone who's curious, the national average for this is 80,610. However, I want to note that this can be impacted by the cost of living within the area. And so this number should be used to inform against the cost of living in your city, rather similar to issues like housing costs and value. So some of the other items on here, including your median home value, your graduation rates, etc., those sort of things are going to influence that, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper as we progress into this community profile. Can we go to the next slide? So as I noted previously, right, your income is one aspect of, looking at your community and the different costs that affect it. Some of these other cost of living indicators determine whether your city is actually affordable, and whether that previously mentioned median income is actually sustainable to live in Homestead. So the median gross mortgage for the city of Homestead is $2,186. As I noted, I do like to kind of point to national averages as well. The national average for cost for median gross mortgage is $2,617. So the city is actually doing much better in that regard. Other items like the owner-occupied housing units influence the availability of housing stock for rent or purchase, which can also inform the overall cost of the community as people look to see whether their income is able to meet their basic needs of housing, etc. Next slide, please. So as we look at racial demographics, we'll see that it's a very diverse community. Racial demographics have remained relatively steady for the last decade in Homestead, so there's not a ton to note here. It's still important for local leaders to monitor this data, just because even without significant change, understanding the racial makeup and demographics of your community helps ensure that your public health services, your cultural programs, your community engagement efforts are responsive to all residents' needs. So along with your racial demographics, your age demographics have also remained relatively steady. As we noted, you have seen a pretty significant population increase. And so, your demographics might change a little bit. One thing that I did want to note is the increase in the age of those 35 to 64. I recognize that this is kind of a big swing of individuals, but the thing that I want to highlight is that it's something to consider as you think about those older individuals within your workforce. As you're planning for the future, these kind of things inform what your future needs will be down the road. Maybe not a immediately pressing need, but as those individuals get towards the end of their careers, they're getting ready to retire, they'll have different needs in terms of housing, in terms of transportation, in terms of food access. And so those are certain things that you want to keep in mind as you begin to plan for your plan in the future. Employment is especially important to consider in the long-term strategic planning of your city. As we noted, your income is very important, but how you get it is as well. As you see individuals coming into your community, as you see your population increasing, it's important to be aware of which industries are keeping individuals working and living within your community. So for Homestead, this is particularly educational services, healthcare, and social assistance. One of the things that I also wanted to note is that the national average for unemployment is 4%, and the city is at 2.6%. So you're doing a great job at keeping your individuals employed and at work. So as we look at all different aspects of the city, of course, education rates are important to know for the long-term health of your workforce. and also your workforce development. The city has a 77.4% high school attainment rate or higher, which is important as you think about which industries are in the community. As we looked at the previous note, it's educational services, healthcare, and social assistance are the top employment industries for your sector. And so as part of that, as you think about educational attainment, one thing to consider is what needs what educational needs are necessary to keep individuals in the sectors that are located in Homestead. Continuing on this with our next slide is charter schools. This information is important to note because it impacts public school enrollment. It also affects our funding, right? As far as charter schools go, another consideration is it impacts your educational quality and choice. And it affects the infrastructure needs for your community as well. So I wanted to know that there are, for the 2025 school year, Homestead has 25 charter public schools supporting over 14,000 students in Homestead. So the AAR Livability Index, I always like to talk a little bit about this. This is a tool that scores communities across the United States based on how well they support residents of all ages, but particularly older adults. It measures key factors like housing, transportation, neighborhood quality, environment, health, engagement, and opportunity. And the goal is to help communities understand how livable they are today and then begin to prepare to make their communities more livable in the future. One of the things that I wanted to note for your community is that you're right in the median. The average city score is a 48 and we're a 49. So I like to say we're better than the median because we're just over it. But one of the things that I wanted to note is that you score very well in housing affordability, as we noted earlier, in your mortgage costs being under the national average. Additionally, you also score very well in security, a very safe community, as well as your environmental scores. Some of the things to note that the score noted as far as areas for improvement or potential opportunities are improvements to transportation. How do you get around your community well? Opportunities for engagement and opportunities in terms of economics or other opportunities in the community. These are important factors to consider, especially as you think about, how are residents in your community going to age and progress? We talked about, your 35 to 64 demographic aging. As we think about, them getting older and wanting to stick around the community, these are some different factors to consider that might improve their overall experience in Homestead.
Thank you, Bailey. So I'm going to take over for the last stretch of the Bailey and Charlene show before we turn it over to you all to start thinking about your ideas. So this begins to just provide us some valuable insights into community perception, but also helps us to identify some major themes that we're hearing from the community, right? So this slide presents data from a 2025 social pinpoint survey. I mentioned social pinpoint in the community engagement, and this is the tool that we've used for the survey that's still available online. For those of you who have not had a chance to complete the survey, we welcome you to go and engage online as well. So we asked the question, what are some things that the city government does well? Emergency response stood out significantly as a key area that residents feel that the city excels. So this would include the police department, but also it's a great indicator that the community trusts the city's ability, right, to handle crisis. Also speaking to the high ranking in one of the core services that the city provides. Engagement ranks second, and again, really speaking to the efforts that the city is making to involve residents in planning. I see around 65% of you all attending today, which is great. Oftentimes, it also ranks really highly in the survey because it's typically the people who are engaged and know where to find information that are responding to the survey. And then coming in close as well, we had recreational, so active public parks and facilities. So this would include your fields, your courts, as well as your gyms. So then we asked the reverse of that question. What are some things that the city could improve on? Road maintenance, again, stands out significantly here. This is more than half of the responses, which tells us that it is a visible issue, and we've heard many times throughout the vision boards as well as the stakeholder interviews that road infrastructure has not necessarily kept up pace with the growth that the city has experienced. So as a result, there's a lot of traffic and so forth. So that was a very common theme that we heard in our stakeholder engagement interviews. City beautification came in second. So this includes things like landscaping, litter control, signage, and really the overall appearance of the city. So when you combine that with the road infrastructure, it really speaks to some of those items that are highly visual to residents. The other category, this was an open text field that residents could specify if there was something that was not in the options that we provided. Some of the things that we heard were people were concerned about development. There was a lot of emphasis on, again, road infrastructure, but we also heard people saying that they want things to do within the city limits. So that was interesting as well, especially as we look at economic development coming in fourth there. Some concerns about financial planning, but also folks wanting things to do within the city limits. So then we asked, what are some of the top 5 aspects that the city should prioritize in the strategic plan? So it's not surprising that roads tops the list here. So again, really reinforcing what we saw earlier in the areas for improvement where residents really feel that there should be significant attention given to the transportation infrastructure. Nearly tied, parks and trails came in second. So people love their parks and outdoor spaces and want the city to continue to invest in maintaining these, right? So whether it's for health or recreational or aesthetic, parks and trails are really central part of how residents experience the city. And again, economic development tells us that the community really values job growth, right? Having a strong tax base as well as a thriving business economy, or excuse me, business environment, and also reflecting the idea that people want more opportunities close to home rather than having to drive outside of town for those activities. So in addition to the social pinpoint survey, we also had interviews which kind of give us more qualitative data and some of the things that we heard about things that the city does well. And again, you'll start to hear the themes as we continue to go through these slides, but people noted that the Parks and Rec department has lots of great events that people can attend. There was transparency and trust, which is really good, especially in this political climate. Public safety, again, right, going back to the emergency response that we saw in the previous slides, as well as the city overall being responsive, the business relationships that it continues to foster, as well as partnerships. And the partnerships could be with, city government, could also be with county governments in the state as well. So areas for improvement, we heard a lot about transportation, of course. There is this concern about with the growth coming, people still want the small town feel of Homestead, right? So really balancing growth with preservation. City beautification came up as well in those interviews, and people thinking that the city should improve the way that people do and conduct business in the city. And then community engagement as well is something that folks thought that it's an area for improvement. So now we're going to turn it over to you. Before we do our small group exercise, just wanted to take a pulse and see if there was anything surprising that came up that we presented today. You can feel free to raise your hand and unmute and speak out, or even use the chat feature. Based on the demographic data, are there any key things that you see as the city's opportunities or maybe challenges, and some themes that you think may influence the future decision or strategies of the city?
Yes, I'm not sure if I'm being heard right now. Is this a good time to speak?
It is, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. For context, my name is Lazaro Rodriguez. I've been a resident. I'm 29 years old. I've been a resident of Homestead for, say, over 20 years at this point, and I've moved in and out of the city a multitude of times throughout my life. And for some reason, I always come back home. And with every visit back, I see positive and negative changes in this city. It seems like the community is collectively sort of agreed on road maintenance, as well as opportunity for growth. But I do believe that there are some clashing beliefs in that. I think the initial infrastructure of Homestead wasn't designed for this many people. And although I am a very opening and welcoming person to bring more people into our community, and I do actively look for progressive growth in the city, I fear that there is a lot of vision towards external growth and bringing people in order to boost an economy without focusing on the internal growth and having a stronger or an updated foundation into this new world of thousands of people moving into the city. And the road maintenance issue of it just with, quite literally hundreds, and I don't want to be misquoted, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was over 1,000 new homes built in Homestead over the past 6 or 7 years, specifically in specific parts. I'm thinking east of US 1 and the Keysgate areas and around the villages of Homestead. These roads were never designed to allow this many people to commute. So I feel like there is, although words like growth are exciting and opportunistic, I feel like there are more integral foundational pieces that need to be worked on before we focus on bringing more people into the community, because this city was not, at least from my perspective, it does not feel like it was designed to accommodate this many people. I won't take everybody in here too much of their time. This is something that I would love to speak more about in person with any specifics. Charlene, Bailey, I appreciate all the information that you guys have provided for the city. It's really opened my eyes, but I guess I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, thank you for everybody. Thank you everybody for the time to speak.
Thanks for sharing, Lazaro.
Absolutely.
Anyone else want to chime in before we break out to our small groups?
Charlene, we have a couple that have raised their hands.
Okay, yep, go ahead. I can't see those. If you want to identify the first one, Bailey.
The first one that I saw was Michelle, let's see, Peterson.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm just now unmuted myself. Thank you for the information and thank you so much for holding this forum. Been a business owner in the historical downtown area for over 24 years. We're a small business. We're invested in that community, and I really, it's been hard when I see so much positive growth and other businesses coming to the east side of Homestead because of the demographic data, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to calculate their demographic data there to see if it's worthy of investing. And when you do the demographic data in the downtown and west district, you see the empty buildings. You walked down Chrome and Washington and you see such blighted, sparse environment, and it's really, it's sad. So do demographic trends influence investors, influence growth, influence opportunity? Yes. So what can Homestead do to raise that so people are attracted to investing and spending their money there? How are we going to attract them to come spend their money there and open up businesses, etc.?
Thanks, Michelle. Did you have any ideas for that area specifically, or did you want someone from the city to answer your question?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, how do you build on a more or increase the demographics? Well, you need something, unique and different that the city is willing to invest in themselves. I mean, you've got to make it, because all the other municipalities in Miami-Dade County are, you know, trying to do the same, and they're doing it. And Homestead is behind on that. What are we going to do? Like, what is the city of Homestead? They've got to invest themselves. I spoke at one of the meetings and I gave them a list of things that I felt, but that's something we can do. I mean, I can do it now, but we can do it in our small groups
In
too.
small groups. Yep. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. So we'll take AV and then we'll get into our small groups. AV, go ahead. You have your hand raised. AV, are you still with us?
Charlene, if not, I believe that Roger Trujillo has also had their hand raised.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. I don't know at what point you'd like to address some of these things, but here goes. I'd like to know if you've reviewed any past plans that the city has had, and what's worked and what hasn't worked in those plans, and how they addressed them.
Yes. So, go ahead.
I mean, I have more, but that's something that I'd like to know, because if we keep having studies and plans and you know, just like 4-year terms, that you know, everything changes every time someone else brings up an idea, we're not getting anywhere. We're killing off something that might work if we gave it more time. Or should we just stop something flat out because it wasn't working? I'd like to know your considerations on that, if you studied what they were doing before.
Yep. Thank you for that question. Yeah. So going into the plan development sessions in May, we do plan on reviewing those plans. Again, to your point, right? Not everything in the strategic plan has to be new things. If there are things that are in flight that the city is working on, those items may end up being as part of the strategic plan. But we generally want to understand some of those items that, you know, the city has had successes in and things that have just not worked, so that we're not reinventing the wheel, but also continuing to do the same things that have not shown great results.
Okay. Barry, your household income. I think it's very important to define the size of a household, because if you have 4 people living off of $65,000, it's different than you know, a starter home, 2 people living off of 65 and having more money to spend in the community. Do you have a number for that, or should we do something about getting that number? I think it'll help us more with the study and what we can do with whatever is available. In the smaller group, I guess we could talk about household and what we should focus on, and who to bring. I'm a firm believer that we should start families here, not bring in a family that's already, you know, looking to afford a place, but somebody that, you know, is starting a family and they are growing and they are spending as they continue to grow. That's me in my thoughts. I'm in real estate.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. And we can definitely follow up on the household income for the different sizes. I want to keep us moving forward here. I know we still have a few hands raised, but I want you all to start getting into your small groups. Maybe you'll generate some more ideas there that you can share in the large group when we kind of do a breakout. So to get into our small groups, we're going to break you all up into, I believe, 3 groups. So you can have more visioning discussions with your peers, your neighbors about some ideas you have for the city in terms of things that they should consider in the strategic plan. Once you get into your groups, you want to take some time maybe to introduce yourself to your neighbor, then select the scribe, so someone who will be taking notes for the group and can also do a report out to the large group. And once you discuss amongst yourself the ideas that you have, right, related to these prompts here, what do you want the city to be known for in the next 5 years? How do you want to feel as a community member the next 5 years? You want to select and agree upon maybe 4 to 5 ideas that you want to share with the large group. So you'll have about 20 minutes with this exercise. Bailey and I will come around and hover around to make sure that, folks have, if you have any questions, we can help clarify as well about the exercise. So let's take about 20 minutes and we'll broadcast when we're about 2 minutes from our 20-minute timeline.
Hey guys, for whoever stayed behind, if you see in the breakout session on the right, are you able to join any of the breakout sessions? Do you see a join button?
Hi, it's just myself and it looks like Carmen, but I can't. Whenever I hit join, it doesn't allow me.
Okay, Carmen, can you try it? Eileen, Jackie?
It says I'm in breakout session 2.
Carmen just left. Okay, I saw her just leave.
Can you click on join in breakout session 2, Eileen?
The join button is already faded out. I already joined, supposedly.
No, but it didn't move you. Then join session 1.
Oh,
Let me see if it lets me.
it's showing there's 30 people, but not in session 22.
Exactly, it doesn't take whatever. Can you click on it?
It does nothing for me to try and join session 1.
Okay. See if we can move you. She's in session 2. Okay, move her. See if you move. And Edwin, yeah. Did he move? Okay, he moved it. Okay.
Oh, there. Okay.
The same with Edwin, Maria and Ed.
All right, it looks like we're coming back to the large group. Did everyone have fun? Thumbs
Yes,
up.
It was
we
beneficial.
did.
It was beneficial. Thank you.
Absolutely. So now we're going to take a few minutes just to do the large report out. So let's start with group 2. Let us know some of the top 4 or 5 ideas that your group came up with.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Babette Friedman, the HR director here at City of Homestead. For our group, for what the city wants to be known for in 5 years, one of the comments was culture, the food, the color of the community. The other one was artsmanship, so allowing local artists, beautification of the buildings in downtown areas, and also improved transportation. Do you want me to go to question 2?
Yes, please. Yep.
Okay. For question 2, they want to be proud of the community, see an increased effort in the issues with the population, that the city cares, and that the residents feel like they're heard. The other one is improve permit processes, housing and affordability, and then investment in public schools.
Thank you. Group 1, why don't you go next? I guess there's only 2 groups, so.
So we did not follow the script as closely in terms of responding to the questions, but I think had some really terrific dialogue. And I think what we heard and from our group came back to with each one of the commentaries, the downtown area in general that we have, and really the recognition that there is an inherent authenticity to Homestead that is special to the city to protect and preserve and grow from, as well as a strong desire to foster local businesses, mom and pop restaurants, bakeries, cafes, entertainments. We heard some really wonderful commentary from many years back or generations back on the number of activities and attractions, bowling alleys and skating rinks and other things, movie theaters that used to be in the community that would be desirable to start to bring back as this becomes more of a destination. We did also hear about really embracing the assets in terms of some of the events and activities that are already occurring within the community, the rodeo, NASCAR. If there's a foundation of something, can we build and expand on that? Related also to some economic development. Primarily though around downtown, and I think we went all over the map though in terms of a lot of good ideas.
Thank you, Jared. So based on some of the ideas that both groups have shared, I'm curious to hear any similarities in those two groups.
Well, I'll offer just, and I'm acknowledging myself as a city employee, I think what we have heard, at least in the recap from group number 2, and certainly what we're hearing in group number 1 is a vision and a want to get somewhere, which is a great thing, right? And it sounds like we're invested in the future of the city, being a part of the process.
Thanks, Jared. And I'll just say, as you know, with the notes that I've just been taking, as both groups have reported out, there's a lot of strong desire for emphasizing the culture, right? So leveraging the culture, the unique identity of the city, sharing what's special to the city, and also continuing to communicate what makes you all proud, right, to live in the city. So that's really good to hear some of those similarities across both groups. So we're coming to the end of our time here. Well, I wanted to confirm if you all can still see my screen.
We can still see you. Yes.
Charlene. Yeah.
You can see the screen. Okay. So just the last question, we just want to gauge how.
No, Charlene, we can see you. We cannot see the
you can
screen.
see me, not the screen.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let me go back to that. Okay. We good now?
Yes.
Looks good, Charlene.
Awesome. Thank you. Just the last poll question, we want to gauge how optimistic you all are about the future of the city, right? So we talked about lots of great ideas. There's a lot of potential here, a lot of opportunities and assets that the city has to really capitalize on. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 is your being the most confident. And how confident are you that the city will be a better place to live 5 years from now? You can feel free to use the chat feature for this one. 3. Okay, lots of 5 coming in. That's great. Awesome. Thank you. The reason why we ask this question is just to see, where the community is. I know sometimes it's difficult to see what changes can be made in 5 years, but it is good to hear that there is that optimism, right, in terms of where the city will ultimately be. As far as next steps, I first want to say thank you all for engaging with us this afternoon. So this is part of phase 2, that stakeholder engagement, where we're collecting your ideas, collecting your feedback. Your feedback will ultimately be inputted into an updated environmental scan, which will be shared with the council as well as department staff. And the goal with that is to essentially start to develop a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis so that we can use that as an input to the strategic plan development process. Then from there, we'll conduct some plan development sessions with city council and leadership, and we'll end up creating a draft plan. That plan will come back to you all as the community members, right? Again, we talked about this really being a tool for transparency. We want to make sure that you all can see the draft plan on the City of Homestead webpage. From there, we'll be presenting the draft to the City Council June 23rd, and ultimately, the goal is to have this plan be adopted and finalized by July 16th. So that will take us into phase 3 there. I want to leave you with this. Community engagement is very important as part of this process, right? We can only have a lot of good input if we hear from you all. So as you leave this meeting, feel free to share this widely with your network. We want to make sure that we're hearing from everyone as much as we can. So if you can snap the QR code, that will take you to our social pinpoint site, where, as I mentioned, you'll have the survey, the idea as well, and other ways to engage. But also, it'll keep you up to date as well about the process and where we are in our timeline. I know there were a few city announcements. So I'll turn it over to the city.
It says the QR code is deactivated. I'm sorry.
You could also go to homesteadfl.gov/plan, and directly there you'll be able to engage with the social pinpoint site to make it easy.
Thank you.
Yep. And we'll look into the the QR code for this evening's session. But yeah, homesteadfl.gov/plan is another way to access the site.
And then, hi everyone, this is Camila. I'm the Public Information Officer for the city, and I have a few announcements. We have a lot of exciting things happening in Homestead, and we want to make sure that you, the residents, are informed in what's going on. So one of the more pressing items or programs that we have for you is the Elevate Florida program. So any Florida homeowners can receive financial assistance to safeguard their homes against hurricanes and floods. The deadline to apply would be April 11th. So if you want to have more information, you can visit our social media accounts, and we have some posts there for you with instructions on where to go. We also have a lot of exciting events. We have our Easter extravaganza happening this Saturday at Harrisfield Park from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll have egg hunt, Easter bunny, food trucks, all the fun stuff for the kids to enjoy. And then, of course, we love to see the community engaged. And so we have our next CRA meeting April 16th, followed by our city council meeting that same day. Meeting starts at 5:30, and then council meeting will be at 6 o'clock. And we want to make sure that's the best way to kind of get a direct line to city staff and the council and let us know what you want to see in the community. We also have the grand reopening of our tennis and pickleball courts at JD Red Park happening May 7th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We're going to have a tournament. You'll get to see the new resurfaced courts. dedicated pickleball courts, since it's a rising sport here in the US and especially in South Florida with our beautiful weather. And then you get to see all of the great new amenities, like we have enhanced seating areas. We now will have Wi-Fi access available in the park, and a lot of many park upgrades that we've been doing in the last few months. And then lastly, we are announcing the city of Homestead is working to do photo enforced speed school zones, where we're trying to launch protect our school zones and the children, and making sure that they're protected for high-speed drivers. If you want more information and learn about the program that's going to be coming soon, you can go to homesteadfl.gov/school safety, and you can find more information there about the program. It's not active just yet, but we are letting the community know that this is coming in the next few months. And then, of course, if you want to stay up to date on everything happening, please follow us on social media at City of Homestead, or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. And then you can also sign up for our notifications by visiting homesteadfl.gov/notify me. And you can also get updates to your email from our website. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the communications department.
Thank you, Camilla. Any closing remarks from city officials? I'll turn it over back to you all.
I want to make sure that the manager is still on, because I know he'd like to wrap us up. And then I think I saw a couple of council people. Let's see. There you go. Zara, you're on mute. You're still on mute, Zari.
Hello?
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to actually thank everyone for such a very elaborate, robust conversation. The ideas are really, really very interesting and challenging. We've taken a lot of notes. There'll be a lot of follow-up and follow-through. And most of the recommendations that brought up this afternoon seems to be in concert, is actually consistent with some of the great initiatives that have been initiated by the mayor. I don't know if you know that we just recently rolled out a new trust fund, the Transportation and Parks Trust Fund, where the city is going to be accumulating a lot of revenues from some of the initiatives we have to consolidate a long-term running trust fund for any type of capital improvements that relates to transportation, that relates to parks and recreation. And most of the ideas that came up this afternoon were actually principally in those two areas. So we are actually in tune, and we look forward to having a very, very interesting implementation phase as we conclude on the strategic planning. And again, thank you everyone for your time this afternoon. And we hope to see everyone this evening, or those who are not able to join us this afternoon. We hope to see you later in the day at 6 o'clock at City Hall here in person. Thank you, everyone, and have a pleasant afternoon.
Bye.
Everyone.